New at 6, the head of the state police force is apologizing tonight after ICE agents arrested an undocumented immigrant inside a Maui courthouse. Critics say that aggressive tactic creates a climate of fear that has no place in the justice system. Our Chelsea Davis has the video and new reaction.
Surveillance video from inside the Wailuku courthouse on October 21st shows plainclothes immigration and custom enforcement, or ICE agents, coming through a back entrance. They find and arrest Esteban Talachi Velasquez after his court appearance for driving under the influence and driving without a license. The head of Hawaii's Department of Law Enforcement says this should not have happened.
It was brought to my attention that one of our sheriffs had violated an internal memo that stated that we will not participate in immigration-related enforcement.
Lambert says the state can't legally stop federal enforcement, but his office previously directed staff not to assist ICE and said ICE agents need to use the public entrances to state properties like everyone else.
It was one of our deputies that, for whatever reason, didn't see the severity of allowing Homeland Security investigators to come in through secured areas. At the end of the day, I need to take accountability for that. It was an overstep. We've taken corrective action, and we're hoping that these type of incidents don't occur in other courthouses across the state, as well as this one.
Critics say this arrest and others like it across the country obstruct justice, violate constitutional rights, and cause fear that deters witnesses and victims from seeking legal protection.
What I would propose is legislation that creates a warrant requirement for state-funded facilities and for any law enforcement seeking entry for various purposes.
In a statement, the state judiciary said it shares concerns that enforcement activity at courthouses could discourage participation in the justice system. But Homeland Security investigation says its agents did not violate any standard procedures. An ICE spokesperson said Velasquez pleaded guilty to promoting prostitution in New York City in 2011 and said the arrest underscores HSI's dedication to protecting the public. Reporting in Wailuku, I'm Chelsea Davis for Hawaii News Now.